not a problem at all. And thank you so much, everybody, for coming along today for the first of our SCQF Week webinars. So we're holding a week of different webinars and other events are happening online this week to show the SCQF and what a versatile tool it is to help in a whole range of different situations. So I'll be talking a little bit about the SCQF this morning, this afternoon, and we also have colleagues Andy Higgins and James Muir from Career Transition Partnership, who kindly come along to tell us all about why veterans are a fantastic, often untapped pool of resources for filling our job roles. So I'm going to kick off this morning. I keep thinking it's morning. Forgive me, that's Monday, a Monday issue. Let me start by sharing my presentation. Okay, can everybody see that okay? Maureen, yes. Can you see that? Okay.
I can indeed.
Perfect, thank you very much. So my name is Nicola Smith and I am the Employer Support Lead at the SCQF Partnership. It is my job to support employers to understand what the SCQF is and how they can use it to your best advantage. I've popped my contact details in the chat, so please feel free to link with me on LinkedIn, drop me an email if you want to find out anything else about what we're going to talk about today. If you have any questions, please just pop them in the chat and I'll pick them up at the end. We're going to I'll talk a little bit about the SCQF to start with, and we're going to hand over to colleagues from Career Transition Partnership, and then we're going to come back to me and I'll show you a tool that we've created to help veterans and employers understand what veterans are capable of. Okay, so there we go. So at the SCQF, we are Scotland's national lifelong learning framework. We have been quietly underpinning what happens in Scotland in terms of learning for 21, 22 years now. We are the framework that underpins the majority of qualifications that happen in school, college and university. But because we have one framework, we can also bring in qualifications that are happening in the workplace and in the community. So I work with employers to help them understand what the SCQF is in the first place. It's very well known in education circles. It's not so well known in employment and HR circles. I help employers understand the range of alternative qualifications that are out there and the equivalent skills and experience that people may have that are equivalent to qualifications. How can you benchmark people's skills and experience to an SCQF level? And in doing that, you can also benchmark your job roles to an SCQF level so that you can understand better the types of qualifications you might be looking for, or the types of skills and experience that you would want people to have. What SCQF level do you want people working at to make a success of the job role that you're advertising? We can also, because we have this one framework that underpins a whole range of qualifications, if you have in-house training, or if you're a training provider, or working in the community learning, then you can have your qualifications benchmarked against the SCQF so that people can recognise and understand the level at which your training is pitched. And doing all of this helps you as an employer with recruitment, helping you recruit more widely, and with retention as well, keeping hold of your staff, developing them properly. So we're running a range of workshops all through the week. Tomorrow is our focus on employers, so I'll be talking a little more in depth about some of the things I'm just going to touch on quickly today tomorrow, so please feel free to come and join us if you would like then. So what we're here to talk about today is the often untapped, fantastic resource that is our armed forces community. We've been working with the Ministry of Defence and with Skills Development Scotland to help fulfil the Scottish Government's goal of Scotland being the place of choice for people who have served to settle once they come out of the armed forces. So we've created a tool which helps service leavers and veterans understand the types of skills that they have developed during service, and also to be able to benchmark the qualifications that they have taken and find out what the comparable SCQF level is for those qualifications. And in doing that, they can then explain to a Scottish civilian employer what their qualifications mean and what level they're capable of working at. So, in order for that to be useful to both service leavers and employers, you have to have an understanding of the SCQF, and that's where I come in. So I help employers understand how you can use the SCQF in order to benchmark your job roles and cast your net as wide as possible. So this is our framework diagram, and it gives you an idea of where your mainstream qualifications fit that you might be taking in school, college, university, and your skills-based vocational qualifications as well, apprenticeships, SVQs. So as I said, SCQF has been underpinning Scottish qualifications for 22 years now, and it's very well understood in education circles. So just to orientate you, a higher, which hasn't changed its name in a long time, but maybe about to, sits at SCQF level 6, and moving up the way, level 7, if you're taking advanced higher in 6th year, it's also the same level as an HNC, your first year in college, your first year at university, and a range of apprenticeships, SVQs as well. Level 8 is where you would find your HND and second year at university as well. Level 9 would be an ordinary degree, 10 an honours, 11 a master's, and 12 a doctorate. And I'll show you another graphic in a wee minute where we'll work down the levels to help you understand those a little bit better. But there were a couple of key reasons the SCQF was created. And one of them, you might have noticed that the level of learning in college and university is the same level. And that's that way for a reason. It's to allow what we call articulation movement between the different types of learning paths that you can take. So you might start school, maybe go to college, and then maybe move up into a higher year of university, or you might move across into the apprenticeship SVQ route, or vice versa. It allows movement between them all. It allows people to find the qualifications that are right for them and the pathway, the learning pathway that's right for them too. The other key reason it was created was because it was felt that the skills-based qualifications were often seen as less quality, less difficult than the traditional academic path that was the gold standard, or seen as that. So what we wanted to do was make sure that people could properly compare vocational qualifications to those better known academic qualifications. So you know that if you sit a higher at SCQF level 6, or an apprenticeship or an SVQ at SCQF level 6, they've got the same level of difficulty of learning. So, because we have them all in the one framework, we can also bring in, as I said, qualifications that are happening in the community and in the workplace as well. So here we have a small example of some of the different types of qualifications out there that are not your mainstream, but have been credit rated to the SCQF, so you can compare them with those better known qualifications. And that's the beauty of having the one framework that underpins everything. So we have about 11,500 qualifications at any given time on the SCQF, and about 1,000 of those are these qualifications that are community learning, whether it's adult learning, qualifications or programs aimed at young people, or ones being taken in the workplace as well. So I said we'd look at going down the levels now. So we'll go back to higher, which sits at our level 6, and it's not changed. If you're more familiar with qualifications going back in time, the current National 5 is given its name because it sits at SCQF level 5, and it's equivalent to a standard grade credit, a 1 or 2, or a an upper pass at O grade. A National 4 is equivalent to a standard grade general or a lower pass at O grade. And moving down through, they are now named, as you can see, based on the SCQF level of learning that they contain. So we're doing a very quick romp through the SCQF today, but if you want to find out more information about it, look into it further, please feel free to get in touch with me and I can take you through in a one-to-one. So the last thing I'll show you about understanding qualifications is this diagram here, and this is what's particularly useful when we're looking at military qualifications. So the blue column at the end is the SCQF, and the yellow column here is the RQF. That's called the Regulated Qualifications Framework. Now, this is where you will find the majority of military qualifications. So, for example, you'll see better known ones here. GCSE sits at level 2 on the RQF, which should be SCQF level 5. So if you see qualifications that just say level 2, there's a good possibility it's likely to be on the RQF. If it's on the SCQF, it will say SCQF level, whatever. Now, there are a lot of these vocational technical qualifications and professional ones coming in now on the RQF, and this will allow you to see how they compare to the SCQF. So you'll very often, with the military qualifications, see a range of ones at a particular level, find that level, and just map it across to where it sits on the SCQF, and you'll get a better understanding. You'll notice as well that we have functional skills here at levels 1 and 2. These are something that the majority of people in service will do, functional skills, in either maths, English, or ICT, and ICT. And those map across nicely. So if you're looking for people to have basic levels of numeracy and literacy, then those functional skills qualifications are really useful qualifications that are done by many during their initial training. So we also have something called our SCQF Employer Levelling tool. Now, this is a really important piece of kit which allows you to benchmark your job roles against an SCQF level. So what we're trying to encourage people to do is, instead of advertising jobs as a particular qualification, like a degree or equivalent or higher as an equivalent, we're trying to encourage employers to widen out the range of people that they get applying for their jobs by benchmarking their job role to the SCQF and then using the SCQF level in their recruitment rather than those specific qualifications. So how do you do that? Very quickly, every level of the SCQF has a page which describes what an employee would be able to do if they are working at that level. So if you have a wee look down, you choose which ones of these are the most important for your job role. You have a look, you see if it describes the role that you're advertising. Look wider, have a look at your responsibilities, typical tasks and duties, and you can get an idea if that is really describing the job role that you want. So if it doesn't, you can move up or down through the pages till you find the SCQF level that describes your job role. And what we're suggesting people do is that you use the SCQF level instead of a specific qualification, and in doing so, that allows you to widen out the range of people that will apply for your job. And this is important when it comes to people in the military, because we are working with veterans and service leavers to help them recognise their skills and qualifications in terms of SCQF levels. So if you use SCQF levels rather than specific qualifications, you're far more likely to attract a range of service leavers to apply for your roles. If you do that, you can also become one of our growing family of SCQF inclusive recruiters who are recognising alternative qualifications, benchmarking their job roles against SCQF levels, and being open to skills and experience as well as or instead of qualifications. So all of the information that I've just spoken to you about. I'll pop that web link in the chat in a little minute, so you can find any of that information again. But please, that was a very quick romp through so that you understand the SCQF and how it underpins the majority of learning that's happening across Scotland. So in doing so, if you're advertising using SCQF levels, then you'll be far more able to attract service leavers to apply for your jobs. So what I'm going to do now is hand over to Andy Higgins and James Muir from CTP, Career Transition Partnership, and I'll let them tell you what they do as their day job, because they'll do it much better than I do. But this is why we're here, to find out why would we want to employ veterans and service leavers in the first place. Over to you, Andy. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, Nicola. Thank you very much. Let me just share my screen here so you don't have to look at me. Wonderful. Can everyone see that okay and hear me okay?
Yes. Yep. Perfect.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Nicola. Yeah, no, I can't stress enough as well. That certainly what Nicola said in the overview there, that poster at the end that compares the RQF and the SQF, I think that's an absolute must-have for anyone. And certainly I've got one on the wall that's helped me massively in my role here. So good afternoon, everyone. My name's Andy Higgins. I'm the Regional Manager for Scotland and Northern Ireland for the Careers Transition Partnership. And I'm joined by James here today as well, who heads up our employer relationship management. So hopefully very, very apt for this call today. Now, I must admit, we will be a wee bit biased here because both myself and James are former military, and I've been working in the sort of military environment ever since. But you know, genuinely goes without saying, we are huge advocates for this cohort, as I'm sure many are on the call, and hopefully we can just explain in a wee bit more detail today what we do as an organisation, and indeed you know, how service leavers and veterans can really support your organisation and businesses going forward. James, do you want to give a quick intro now, not to put you on the spot before we go forward, just so we don't break up the presentation?
Yeah, no problem. So as Andy said, I'm James Moore. I'm the Employer Engagement Manager for CTP. So my role is to lead a team that facilitates that connection between you, the employers, and the military talent pool as well. So we've got a regional footprint. So I do have a guy in Scotland. Unfortunately, he's off at the moment, hence I've stepped in. But we've got a national footprint as well. But we tend to keep it simple and work with wherever your headquarters is. That's the regional manager you work with.
Wonderful, James. Thank you very much. So for those who aren't aware, CTP is the Careers Transition Partnership, and we are a strategic partner of the Ministry of Defence. So we've been working with them for over 20 years now, and are the official provider of resettlement support to the armed forces. Now we like to sum it up in the three sort of key areas of support that you can see on the screen there. So transition, training, and employment. So I'll cover off the sort of transition and training element, and then I'll hand over to James in about 10 minutes time to deal with the employment side of things. But as you can see from the graphic, as corny as it may sound, we genuinely have that service leaver or veteran at the very heart of everything we do. We're you know, myself and James included, you know, a lot of the team are either ex-military or military affiliated, so genuinely can appreciate the sort of unique challenges faced by this cohort when they come to leave the military, and relate to their experiences as well. Just to contextualize this better in terms of figures then, so believe it or not, on average about 14,000 service personnel each year leave the military. Now that sounds quite a lot, especially if you read in the papers and the like about the sort of personnel resourcing crisis and stuff in the military, and how numbers are at an all-time low type thing. But genuinely, actually, that 14,000 is quite a steady and consistent figure. This will be people leaving, you know, for a various number of reasons, be that end-to-end of engagement, retirement, medical discharge, administrative discharge, or just sort of putting in their notice ready to leave early. So we find of that 14,000, how that relates to Scotland is typically about 7 to 8% of that figure will attribute to settling in Scotland. So we say that's about 1,000 people on average per year. Now, I know in sort of, recruitment terms that isn't a huge pool of people, but we like to think that, that the skills and the experiences that specific cohort can bring, really do deserve to be championed when they are coming out into the workforce, and that's what we're here to hopefully describe to you today. So CTP in Scotland, just to again give you a bit of context to where and how we work. You can see there, read the map for yourselves there, but essentially it's important to note CTP work with the third sector in the form of the Forces Employment Charity, which I'm sure everyone's heard of, formerly the RFEA. So together the two organisations really do support both service leavers and veterans, no matter how long they've served or whatever the reason for leaving. We generally base ourselves around the main sort of key locations within Scotland, and our main sort of resettlement centre is in MOD Caledonia, which is at Rosyth. However, we have satellite locations over in the main sort of sectors of the west, over in Faslane, and up north in Lossiemouth and Kinloss. But that being said, yeah, as James has already mentioned, from an employer perspective, we have a regional footprint, and by any, if you see anyone with a CTP or a Forces Employment Charity email address, please feel free to reach out and speak to them, and they'd be very happy to connect you with the employment teams. I think it's also worth mentioning as well, we work very closely with both Skills Development Scotland and the Officers Association in Scotland as well. So that's just to ensure from a strategic level downwards that everyone is getting signposted and supported accordingly, which is excellent and works very well in Scotland. So transition support then, this is the first one, and it can be quite an all-encompassing term banded around in the resettlement process. But essentially, like I've said before, even any military person who's served even as little as 1 day in their military career will receive some sort of support either from the CTP or the Forces Employment Charity. So if you take nothing else away from this presentation, please be assured that our service people are getting looked after. Now, it goes without saying, there's a sort of a sliding scale of entitlements based on either how long you've served or indeed the reason for leaving, and the four sort of key pathways are described there on the screen. The core resettlement is for those who have served at least 6 years or are leaving as a result of medical discharge, and that's essentially the full gambit of support from both CTP and the MOD. Employment support is for those in the 4 to 6 year bracket, so generally that under sort of 25 age group, and Future Horizons is for those who have served less than 4 years, and generally this is our early service leavers, often in the sort of 18 to 25 bracket. And finally, last but not least, is CTP Assist. Now, this is for anyone potentially facing the most significant barriers to employment. So anyone with illnesses or severe medical issues, we recognise the challenges that they might face and have a specific programme in place for them, which works out of the Personnel Recovery Centre in Edinburgh, and there's some great work going on there to support those personnel. So no matter what, why you're leaving or how long you've served, you will get some support. And from an employer perspective, please do bear that in mind, that there is a sort of sliding scale. And whilst that hopefully they have engaged in the resettlement process, some might only have had quite a light touch and might need some extra support from that perspective. So what does transition support look like then? So as you can imagine from a service leaver perspective, somebody that's served a full career in the military, somewhere between 20 and 30 years, you can imagine it can be quite a daunting prospect coming out the other side into the civilian job market. Some often haven't had a formal interview or since the day they joined the army or whatever it may be, and definitely won't have a clue about networking, LinkedIn, CVs, interview skills, anything like that. So this is essentially where the need for the support comes in, and we provide that through a range of activities, as you can see on the screen here. I don't want to labour the point too much, but essentially we offer either a 1 to 3 day workshop where we cover all those key skills of, identifying transferable skills, developing CVs, developing interview techniques, touching upon LinkedIn and networking and the like, which gives those leaving the military a really good grounding in what employers are looking for and how best to sort of sell themselves. After that, we also have sort of a one-to-one career consultant support available throughout that time, and a vast range of sort of online resources for them to tap into. Looking at a more holistic perspective, we offer support for sort of housing briefs as well, and also the financial elements of leaving the military. So hopefully give quite a rounded support service there. I've deliberately left a few out that cover the employment side of things, but James will pick them up shortly after. Moving on to the training side of things now. So so CTP is also a training provider as well, and delivery of award-winning training with over 50 vocational training courses running at the moment. The reason we do this, and the MOD supports this quite extensively with enhanced learning credit funding, is it gives the service leavers an opportunity to sort of commercialize their extensive military experience. So quite often we find, they've got all the skills, they've been there, done it, but not necessarily have that commercial experience that can, set them forward into the civilian job market. It also gives service leavers an opportunity to retrain or go into a completely new, different sector or role that they were previously serving in the military, and use their considerable skills to good effect elsewhere. From a sort of employer perspective as well, many of the courses that we run and are available generally out with CTP have specific direct links into employment. So, for example, we deliver a gas course that is actively recruited from employers straight into the industry. Likewise, some of our IT courses are picked up by BT, and some of our sort of health and safety courses are picked up directly into Amazon. So it's really good from an employment perspective as well. And again, from an employer point of view, the training that's provided and funded for by the military can close the sort of skills gaps within your organisations, and it means that you as an employer don't necessarily have to pay for the training. It's being delivered before the candidate actually gets to your door, which is excellent. We always encourage service leavers and veterans to proactively speak to the employers, obviously, when they're going through the recruitment process, and to identify these sort of training needs and potential gaps in their CV that they can fill with this training. So a benefit to them as a leaver, and also to you as an employer. So again, that's a very quick canter through the training side of things, and there's a lot more to discuss there. But if anyone's interested in that, please do let me know. We can pick it up offline. But down to the crux of the issue then. So my key points I want to say today, like I said, quite biased, but service leavers and veterans, in this ever-changing business sort of environment, everyone's looking to attract and retain top talent, and I think increasingly so, people are turning to the armed forces community, and that's not just those currently serving or former serving, but it's their families and dependents and stuff as well, because many of those favourable attributes have rubbed off on them across the years as well. I think the graphic covers it largely, but I'd want to draw out just a few key ones to highlight to you today. The first is hard skills. So I think it's important to remember the vast majority of service leavers will arrive to your organisations with an extensive set of hard skills and quite high-end qualifications from their military training and the experience they've had in the forces. I must admit the military has worked very hard in recent years to ensure that the training is now properly accredited to the individuals, so they're not sort of disadvantaged upon leaving. I think even as recently as 10 years ago, a military electrician could leave but not have the right accredited qualifications to walk into civilian industry, which is a real shame. But now that is gradually being rectified, which is really good. As I've just said about the training as well, so using that resettlement training provision, service leavers have that opportunity to retrain and gain those industry recognised qualifications to directly land into employment into your organisations. On the sort of softer side of things, the transferable skills, it goes without saying, they come with a vast range of transferable skills, highly valuable to any workplace. Key ones I'd pick out would include sort of leadership, teamwork, discipline, resilience, adaptability, everything that they've picked up over their years of military training. And I think, you know, it goes without saying these traits can be used in companies to help productivity, efficiency, and just general overall performance. I think often military personnel are so committed to teamwork, they will generally understate their own personal sort of achievements and abilities. We often find them saying in the workshops, you know, it's all about we in the interviews rather than I. It's obviously something we work on with them, but I think it's worth highlighting to you from an employer perspective that often they will be very humble about their achievements. So it's worthwhile, you know, peeling away those layers to get to their own personal achievements. Work ethic is another huge one, which I think the armed forces community in general are well known for. I really think this can improve the culture of organisations and drive real positive change within them. You know, just having those personnel that are always dedicated, always on time, always there to ensure tasks are completed to a high standard, on time, on cost, and with a high quality. You know, you can't get better than that. I think it's worth remembering as well, the armed forces community is hugely diverse, recruiting from literally across the world, and that shared variety of backgrounds and experiences is you know, can bring so much to the military forces themselves, but also into the business environment as well. So I think it's great that companies can gain an access to a wider pool of this potential employees with such vast experiences and diverse backgrounds. Loyalty is another huge thing as well, and I think you know, it translates to any workplace. You know, obviously people are coming to the end of their military careers, but to have been there and done that, they've had to be extremely loyal to what they've done, and I think they naturally, through their own personal traits, they bring that into the organization when they come. So you will have a loyal and engaged employee in an armed forces veteran, which obviously is great from a sort of employee retention perspective, and also I would imagine from a job satisfaction one as well. So I would see that translating into any sort of customer engagements as well, to ensure, you know, the customer's needs are met and the employee and client is satisfied. And last but not least, I think it comes back to sort of corporate social responsibility as well. I think James will probably touch on this with the Armed Forces Covenant side of things as well. But you know, it's a fantastic commitment to support, you know, veterans, reservists, and sort of military families as well, from a sort of brand and reputational image as well. But also, it's, you know, a good moral thing to do. And I think certainly from sort of Scottish government statistics that are going to be released later this week, 91% of employers who are actively recruiting service leavers and veterans would definitely recommend it to other organisations. So I think that speaks for itself. And in my own personal experience, we often find once one organisation employs a veteran or service leaver, we quite quickly get another call and say, "Can we get a few more, please?" So hopefully you'll find that out for yourselves in due course. I think that's my time. I've rattled on enough, so I'm going to hand over to James here, who'll take you forward into some employer relations stuff.
Cheers, Andy. Yeah, I just want to pick up on the why it makes business sense to hire a service leaver or a veteran. Somebody asked a question about what's the difference between a service leaver and a veteran. Solely for this presentation, a service leaver is somebody who is contracted MOD support. So that could be 2 years before they leave, up to 2 years after they leave. After that, for our terminology, they then fall out of the contracted support. So we class them as a veteran, and that's where the Forces Employment Charity comes in. Also, you know, makes business sense because there's been a lot of evidence over the years, and a lot of it was anecdotal evidence about, you know, veterans take less sick days, they have better communication skills, they adapt quicker, they're more resilient. So we always use these examples, but we never really had the concrete evidence in the past this evidence is there now. There's been a number of research projects, both at government level and in the third sector, to prove this concept that veterans do bring huge business sense to an employer. And if anybody wants to have a look at that, there's a website, just Google veterans work. It was done in conjunction with Deloitte and Forces and Mind Trust. And it's an excellent resource to give you, you know, if you've got a CEO or an HRD who's maybe on the fence, this sort of research and this body of work can tip them over that fence into the space to hire veterans. If you want to move us on, Andy. So CTP, what my team do is we deliver a no-cost recruitment service to employers to help them facilitate that connection between the service leaver or veteran and the employment prospects out there. So you would be allocated an account manager, and they'll be there to sort of help you with your journey, help you with sort of hints and tips of what works when reaching out to the population, what doesn't really work. So things like loads of industrial language on your job adverts just generally doesn't work for our guys and girls, because most of them have not been exposed to that type of work or that environment, so don't understand it. They may be doing a similar job in the military, but we, like any industry, have our own language about how we do things as well. So we can help you soften that language, or maybe play about that language a little bit for that attract piece. So the main tool we have is Right Job. Right Job is a jobs board where we give you access to the jobs board. You can post your jobs on there, and then we have a team of people that will match those vacancies out to the service leavers. Like any jobs board, the service leaver can create a job alert. So if they are looking for a particular role, mechanical engineering role in Aberdeen, for instance, they can create that job alert. So when any jobs come on like that, it will drop directly into the job basket for them, so they can see them in one place. They can obviously search through the jobs as well, and there's a number of ways to search and things like that. But one of the most important things we do is we provide a job matching service. So we'll send that directly to people that are registered with us that match the criteria of that role, so they can see it straight away. The jobs board is it's a jobs board. We find nowadays that service leavers are more engaged in the networking space, but it still has a huge value, because we can network with them and then direct them directly to the jobs board and to your role that you may be advertising. Other tools that we have available to us then is we have a newsletter. So nationally that goes out to about 12,000 people, and as Andy said, there's about 1,000 people in Scotland that it will go out to as well. Very easy to put an article in there. It's an electronic newsletter. It's sent out digitally on the first week of each month, and that's sent out. And you may have people who are Scottish servicemen and women who may be based in the south of England, and again, maybe on that fence, you know, do they stay in the south of England or do they relocate back to Scotland? I myself am from the east coast of Scotland, but I relocated back to Colchester. That's where my family was at the time. We wanted to keep the kids in school, so that's where we stayed. But you've got that ability to reach out to those service people who may be on the fence about where they're sort of relocating. And if the package is better up in Scotland, then they'll come home to Scotland as well. We can also assist with events, so virtual events or face-to-face events. The virtual space has opened up a real new prospect for the service leavers and veterans when engaging with employers. It's very quick, it's very simple to do. There's no time spent traveling, there's no real money spent apart from people's time. And we take a lot of the admin on board as well. So we can, you give us a form of words, we can create the calendar, we can create the invites, we can control the registrations for you. So all you're really doing is advertising on the day. Employment fairs, if you want to move us on, Andy. The employment fairs are a fantastic way to reach a real large audience in one place. Murrayfield, the 20th of April is our next Scottish Employment Fair. And then we will have one in the north of Scotland as well later on in the year. It's a great way to showcase your organisation and your vacancies, as I said, to a large number of Scottish leavers and veterans. It's open to everybody that's served, as long as they're registered either with CTP or the Forces Employment Charity, they can come along and network with employers on the day. Save on recruitment costs. We don't charge any fees at all for any placement activity. So that's whether through the jobs board or through an employment fair or through an event. There is no fee at all from our end for placement. There is a small fee for the employment fair. It's £495, but it is excellent value for money. We only need to cover the overheads of the venue and the staffing costs for the day. How you do it on the day is absolutely up to you. You can collect CVs, but more and more we're seeing this QR code that everybody's got, that service leavers can register directly with your website using the QR code, and then you'll gather their details and you can keep them in touch. And the experience in the room, as Andy said right at the start of the presentation, you've got those guys and girls who may have only served a very small period of time, right through to those who have got 30, 40 years experience and everything in between. Everybody looking for something different. Some people don't know what they're looking for. They're just looking for that opportunity and that right contact on that day, that right conversation. And we see it all the time, the right conversation on the day. They get hired, sometimes on the day as well, which is absolutely fantastic. But they are really, really good value for money. Move us on again, Andy. So how do you work with us? So firstly, if you're not already registered, please register your interest at the CTP website. When you go on the website, there's a specific area for employers. That will come directly through to my team. Normally it would be Barry that pick it up, and Barry's back soon, so he would pick that up. He'd pick up the call and he'll have a call with you about, you know, what type of roles you have, what the volume is, what the timescales are, whether there's specific programs, and he can assist you around all of that piece to get your roles out to the service community. Ideally, figure out who the main point of contact is for the organisation. Just makes it a lot easier for us rather than dealing with, you know, 2 or 3 points of contact within one resource and department. Just makes it so much easier. So if there is any questions coming about the role or anything like that, then we've got that one person to go to. Work attachments. If you're able to offer work attachments with service leavers, this goes hand in hand again with their training. What we're trying to do is make them make informed decisions right at the start of their transition. You know, what do they want to do? Why do they want to do it? Have they done it before? If they haven't done it before, let's reach out to our network of employers and see if we can arrange a work attachment to make sure they're making that right decision, that informed decision before they go away and do their training or spend money or anything like that, so that it's something that they want to do. We want them to get into sustainable fulfillment careers, not just a job at the end of the day. And then think about the activity you want to do with us. You know, employment fairs, open days, recruitment presentations, anything like that. We're open to all sorts of suggestions. And again, we can help you along the way. As part of the Armed Forces commitment, in order to get silver, you have to be engaged with CTP. You don't have to recruit through us. There's that myth out there, but you have to be engaged with us. So as long as you're engaged, we can help you along that AFC ladder as well. And of course, it's the right thing to do. And then hand back to Andy. I don't know if we've got time for questions.
I know, Nicola, I think you wanted to cover one more thing, so I'll shoot back to you.
Thank you so much, Andy and James. That was a fantastic walk through why veterans make wonderful employees and how you can engage with CTP to make sure that you can make the most of the services they provide. I was going to show you a little quick tour through the tool that we created along with Skills Development Scotland and Ministry of Defence, but I'm mindful of time. Does anybody have any questions before I do that? Please feel free to unmute and ask or pop them in the chat. Lots of information came your way. Okay, what I'll do is I'll take you for a wee quick look through this tool. And if you've got any questions, you can pop them in the chat while I'm doing that. So we created a tool to help veterans and service leavers to understand.
Busy. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. No, oh. Thanks, Nicola. So I'm going to take you to have a look at this tool, which you can get to through our website. We created it for veterans and service leavers to help them understand the qualifications that they've taken in terms of SCQF levels, and we also created it to let them see the skills that they've developed during their time in service. But it's also very useful for employers as well to use to see the types of qualifications that are used, and also the types of skills that you might expect from different types of people who've worked in different job roles. So I'll take you through a quick wee look. There we go. So on our website, we have a page for veterans, military and ex-military personnel. And if you walk down, you'll see a walkthrough that I have recorded. But underneath, you'll see a link to the tool. So I'll do a very, very quick walkthrough of this. So the first thing you would do is you would type in a job role. So for example, if you had somebody who was interested in working at your organisation, you could have a look yourself and you could type in Army. So if you type in Army, you get a range of different things. So for example, let's say that they were a warrant officer. For example, they reached the rank of warrant officer. So we pop that in, add another job role. So they were in REME, Royal Electrical Mechanical Engineers, right at the top, I missed it, and we'll submit those. So what it now does is, this is a fantastic tool that's available in My World of Work for anyone to use, but we have an extra step when it's used for military roles, and it takes you to this qualification part of the tool. So you'll see here that we've now got 65 qualifications. What it's done is it has pre-filtered based on the job roles that you've put in. So if I uncheck the pre-filtering, then you'll see 575 distinct qualifications that can be done. So there are a huge range of qualifications being done in service. Some very, very valuable skills being learned as well. So let's go back down to more manageable. So I mentioned before these functional skills, levels 1 and 2. So that's SCQF levels 4 and 5 that can be taken. So let's say we've got ICT at level 1, we've got maths at level 2, and these are your basic maths and language skills that very often people want. They'll put out that you want a National 5 in English and National 5 in maths. These would provide that assurance that they have those skills that you need. In service, Andy also mentioned leadership and management. Pretty much no matter where you are within the armed forces, you will do some form of leadership and management, and the higher up the ranks you go, the more advanced those will get. So let's say we've got an award in leadership management level 5, and you can also use this to search. So let's put in mechanical, and it'll filter it down to anything that's got mechanical engineering in it. So you can also search by subject area. So if you look down, you'll see the range of these different subject areas. And if you were seeing them all, there would be a lot of them. Because it's been pre-filtered, it's only looking at certain ones. In fact, we can see the full range of different subject areas here. Vast range of experiences, vast range of job roles, trades within all 3 armed forces. So let's go through to discover our skills. And here you will see the job roles that you chose. So this part is the bit that everybody gets if you're using the skills discovery tool. And it's a really useful one to see if you're wanting to change sector, to see what types of transferable skills, meta skills, as Skills Development Scotland call them. So we've got 3 key areas: self-management, social intelligence and innovation. So we'll go back to self-management, and then each of them has subheadings here so we can view more. And what this will do is it tells you the strengths, that types of skills that are extremely important in that job role, and therefore those are skills that that person will have developed through doing that job role. There are some that are less important. For example, reflecting here is less important in this job role. So that's maybe something the person may have those skills through other things they've done, but it's not something that's come into the job role. So really useful, and service leavers, veterans can use this to see what skills they should be bringing out in their CV and application forms, but you can also use this to see what types of skills you would expect from people working in all three of the services. So there's so many, I won't go through them all because there are many, many different skills under all these three different headings. After that, you've got the piece that civilians don't have. It'll give you the qualifications that you chose. They're broadly comparable SCQF level. So SCQF level 4 was that standard grade general, lower pass at O grade level of learning. And it gives you, as it said here, a range of different better known qualifications that you can then compare that level of learning to. So as we go down, leadership and management at level 5 is broadly comparable to SCQF level 8. So that was your HND level, second year in college, second year in university, to give you an idea of the level of learning. So if somebody came to you with some of these qualifications, you could find those in the page before, and you can have a wee look and see what they're comparable in terms of SCQF levels. And our colleagues at CTP are working with those veterans and service leavers to ensure that they are explaining and describing themselves now in terms of SCQF levels, so you can then have a better understanding and a comparison, so you can see the skills that people are coming to you with. Okay, does anybody have any questions at all before we say goodbye?
No.
Nope, fantastic. Thank you all so much for coming. It's been fantastic. Please, if you want to find out anything else about the SCQF and how we can support employers, or about CTP and how they can help you connect with veterans and service leavers, very useful to connect with CTP because, as they said, they can make sure that people have the right training and you're not having to pay for it as they are moving out of service, because they're engaging very often with veterans and service leavers in the last 2 years or 6 months of their time in service. So thank you all for coming, and if there's anything you want, please feel free to get in touch. Thank you so much.
Very much. That was really useful. Thank you.